watching Podcast This with Jesse Miller.
Welcome, everybody, to Podcast This with Jesse Miller, presented by Midtown Video. We're so glad you joined us. If you're watching on YouTube and a question pops up, throw it in the chat room. We'll be happy to answer it live on air. Today, we are so thrilled to have a fantastic guest live in the studio with us. But before we introduce Mr. Neto, I want to remind our viewers what we're doing here. Podcast This promises to upgrade your production value or your production studio. We're going to offer you takeaways you can implement tomorrow to have better looking, better sounding, and after today's video, more viewers. And so with that, it is my real honor to welcome to the studio Mr. Chris Neto. Thank you for joining us. Please give our audience an idea of where you're coming from, what you're up to at Midwich, and why you're the guy to get us more viewers.
Well, my name's Chris Neto. I am the head of emerging markets for Midwich here in the U.S. Midwich is obviously a big company, a big distribution company. We have offices throughout the world. My responsibility is to kind of take a look at the new technologies and work with integrators that are looking to step into some new stuff. One of the projects that I started working on about 3 years ago was on the broadcast side, which takes me back to my roots, what I went to school for, which was broadcast and television. Didn't work out for me to get into that kind of space, but I got into other parts of the world, which got me
What was your first broadcast job?
My first broadcast job was actually in college. I was an in-house at the radio station.
All right.
That actually led to me becoming a DJ, a real DJ at a club.
Wait a minute. In the audiovisual industry, you got your start as a DJ?
Really, yes, I did. Rock DJ to begin with, and then started transitioning into their other styles of music.
What about pro sports? I remember something.
Yeah. So the reason why I got involved with college radio or campus radio is because I was a communications major, and my senior year or my junior year, internship pops up, and I had the opportunity. Blessed, to be honest with you, to be selected to be a New York Giants video intern in 1997.
Awesome.
Yep.
That's awesome. How'd they do that year?
Playoffs.
Okay.
It was Jim Fossil's rookie year. Tiki Barber was a rookie that year as well.
Big name.
And second year for Michael Strahan, and Ike Hilliard was the number one draft pick. It was a fun time. I joined the team right after the draft. So I got to go to their off-season workouts.
What were you doing for the Giants?
I was the guy doing internal video shoots. So when you hear game film, studying game film, that's what I was doing.
Hype videos?
Not necessarily hype videos.
Okay.
These were the videos that they broke down to understand.
Play analysis.
Play analysis of their own players. For example, I shot the lines. And when they had their hands down, they wanted me to focus on their hands. One player was leaning too much to one side. He would white knuckle, and it would signal to the other side, to the defense, where they were going.
Yeah.
So things like that was where we were, where I was.
So rock and roll DJ, professional football videographer, yada yada yada. Midwich.
No.
Tell me.
A lot of stops before I got to Midwich. Pizza guy originally. So I have an affinity for pizza, as some folks may know. I don't friend people that like pineapple on pizza. That's just my online thing, and I can explain that later on.
Fair enough.
In the conversation. But no, I actually started, my first job out of college was as a video technician. Installing video conferencing systems, ripping out old PictureTel units and putting in Polycom 512s and 128s.
Very
ISDN
familiar
system.
work to our viewers and our guests.
Interesting part about how I got the job was how I interviewed for the job. Went in, three people sitting on one end of the table. I walk in, I sit down, I hand out my resume, I look at the table, and I asked the hiring manager, I'm like, is this a test? And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, there's a BNC cable on the table, and it's driving me nuts. You want me to coil that?
Was it a test?
It wasn't, but I got hired.
All right.
He's like, you're the only person that's even walked in and remotely knew what that was, because all they were really interviewing from job want ads they were putting out there was like car audio installers. Like this is in 1998, 99. Finding AV certified technicians was not a thing. We didn't go to school for that. We didn't even know the industry existed. Right? We just kind of took a job because, in my case, I knew what that cable was for my video days, for my video internship. And that's where I learned about that cable.
So how do we go from that video conferencing gig to AV in the AM? Tell us a little bit about what's the concept behind it and why is it so dang popular?
Yeah. So like anything else in anything I do, it happens by instance, right? By happenstance. AV in the AM started because I took a picture of a coffee mug, and it's a known story. I took a picture of a coffee mug, and I tweeted out, good morning, and I answered a question regarding Amazon Alexa that somebody said something about, can it be in the corporate boardroom? And I kind of just played the devil's advocate. I said, why not? I mean, if the iPhone made it into the corporate space, why not the Amazon Alexa? And I had a couple pundits that came on and like, there's no way, absolutely not. Security bros came on like, there's no way IT would ever let this go through. And I'm just feeding the conversation. Next week, I come on, I take a picture of the coffee mug, because I have a nice Star Wars collection of mugs. Yes, I am a Star Wars geek. But I'm up on Sunday mornings at 8 o'clock anyway, because I was making breakfast for my kids.
Okay.
And that was my thing.
Star Wars pancakes?
Star Wars pancakes. I even had the waffle maker. That turned into a little...
Did you see our bookends over there?
I absolutely love that. When you're not looking, I'm going to take that with me back to Jersey.
What is the platform of AV in the AM?
It was strictly an X platform for many years, or Twitter. But now it's migrated into other platforms. So now I run it on LinkedIn. I run it on still on X, and I moved it onto Blue Sky as well, just to basically widen the audience.
Truth Social? Come on. We don't want to exclude any viewers, please.
We will go out there and do, right now 3 is a lot for me to handle.
Okay.
But I'm willing to expand.
That brings up a really critical question.
Yeah.
So our users are creating video content for their organizations. And they often ask, is it better to focus on a single platform? Podcast This is on YouTube exclusively.
Okay.
Or is it more important to try to hit everything? Jesse, why aren't you in vertical on Instagram? And why aren't you also live streaming on Facebook? And so I've got my answer, but I wonder, is it important? Does it get us more viewers to sort of multi-stream in that dimension? Or is it better to focus?
So I've been on and run a bunch of podcasts of my own. And all I can tell you is that it's the algorithms. The algorithms are what's really going to drive it. Within a season of doing a season's worth of podcasts, we were able to determine we're not getting much viewers on this platform versus the other. If it's a business podcast, you need to eventually start moving it towards LinkedIn. And strictly because you have to work through and LinkedIn's not the easiest to get through. So once you get through that, that's where you're going to find your customers, your competitors, everybody who's in the business is there, because that's the Rolodex for business. Essentially, it's a digital Rolodex. Your YouTubes, you got a wider audience, and you will find niche specifics. But if you ask me, those 2 are definitely the streaming platforms that you would start with.
The professionals are on LinkedIn and the hobbyists are on YouTube.
Correct. But when I first started going to NAB a few years ago, I was begging to go before that, because I felt that the next generation of business content creation was going to come from that. If a kid in his mom's basement is running a 1 million viewer show on baseball cards from a basement, that person's going to NAB. And for many years, I had a lot of industry folks that are like, there's no way that kid is going. I'm like, listen, not only has he got 1 million viewers, but he's got the money to put and invest into this stuff. They've evolved.
A recurring thread on this show is that podcast is not broadcast, and you really can get started with an iPhone or your Xbox headset and
Correct.
streaming on Twitch. And so, from an organization like Midtown Video, where we win when we get to deliver lots of gear and services, it's an interesting line to walk, because we're also encouraging our viewers to start with what they've got. You got a camera, you got a microphone, that's what you need.
Yeah.
Sure, we'll get you into a full-fledged studio eventually, but when it's for internal communication, we just want to make people look good. We want to make people sound good. Once we've got that down, though, that's when we want to blow up our viewership.
Yeah. And doing that, you really got to look at, when folks want to do anything, even when I stepped into social media at a late age, right? Social media was not something I grew up with, right?
Wasn't around.
Walking around. I mean, I am Gen X to the core, but I did have video game systems and all that. But we did nothing as far as there was no video games online and stuff like that to play. You actually went to people's houses and you played, right? That's kind of how it worked, right? You'd know that everybody was there. There wasn't like, hey, here's my online presence. There were bikes in the front of somebody's house. You knew that there was something going on, and most likely it was some sort of NES party, or some people were just hanging out playing different types of Nintendo games.
We played a lot of GoldenEye.
Yeah, that was a
Four-player
N64.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a massive I mean, I can even go back further than that. Like the first time I ever saw like Atari and stuff like that, because I was young during those times. But yes, much younger. But it was the hardest part with doing anything when it comes to the content is getting started. Right, the first time I ever tweeted, it took forever to launch a tweet because I wanted to do it right. I overthink. I'm an AV. Everything wants to be perfect. Everything has to be perfect. It's let's create a touch panel. Let's load it with every possible scenario because we need it.
Yeah.
You don't know.
You don't need it.
You don't. And then every integrator's panicking because like, oh my God, what happens if we deliver this and they don't have, this it doesn't divide, it's a divisible space and it doesn't divide into this configuration. You start panicking. You start worrying, and just like everything else in AV, you overthink it. So in the overthinking process of me trying to get into social media, I froze until I said,
Perfection was the enemy of good.
even launching a tweet was painful. So as I stepped into the social media space, I kind of then started to realize that the only thing that's stopping me from moving forward is the ability to say, yes, I can try it. Early days of podcasting for the AV space was AV Nation and Rave, and there weren't many. And when I met Tim Albright from AV Nation, he was doing a podcast that was strictly audio because he's a radio guy.
Strictly audio is how podcasts began. They had to be. It was a podcast because it was delivered to the iPod.
Correct. So those podcasts from back in the day was how he started. We would get on a Skype call and just do an audio podcast. And then we kind of pushed the envelope. I'm like, why can't we do video?
You mentioned a couple of interesting guys. Tim Albright, I'm a big fan. But that actually brings us up to our first segment.
Sure.
Verge.
And now on Podcast This, name dropping.
So it's not always about who you know or who you've worked with, but Chris Neto, who are some of the biggest celebrities you've worked with?
In the AV space?
Any space.
Okay, so if you're going to talk AV, I was never a person of CEO. Like, I never connected, really. You're CEO, don't get me wrong.
You connected today, baby.
Yes, we did. But, I mean, honestly, I've always gotten around really good with the technicians, the project. Those are my people. Those are the people that I came
The
up
DJs.
with. The DJs, the blue-collar guys. I mean, that's my personality. As time went on, I was able to kind of make a name for myself, and I did connect with some folks. In the world of social media, I may have become friends with a few celebrities.
The name of the segment's name dropping.
Okay, so I did have a back and forth and have, all right, let me just cut right to it. Guy Fieri?
Never heard of him.
Never heard of him.
You've got a Guy Fieri vibe.
Yeah, it's not Guy Fieri, though.
Okay.
Is it the white hair?
Yeah, it's the white hair and the zest for life.
Yes,
You like
absolutely.
to salt things up,
Yes,
I feel like.
absolutely. So one of the
Kick it up a notch. That's Guy Fieri, right?
That would be maybe Emerald.
Emerald?
Fellow
Criminy.
pork chop,
Okay.
As we refer to Portuguese people. But yeah, no, one of the people that I ended up connecting with was Carl Ruiz, who used to be a judge on the show that he used to do, which was the grocery game show.
Carl Ruiz, the judge?
The judge.
Fantastic.
El Cubano.
Okay.
So we would go back and forth online, and I would send him messages. I was sending him a direct message. Hey, man, I'm in Alabama. Where do I go to eat? Oh, if you're here, go here and tell them the Cuban sent you.
Nice.
I'm going to Atlanta in a few weeks, and one of the places he sent me, that's where we're going to have a get-together at Fox Brothers Barbecue.
Nice.
So with him...
Sounds messy.
Absolutely.
right.
It's many napkins and an extra shirt with you in a bag. But yeah, so Carl Ruiz would be one of the famous people. I've had interactions with Richard Rawlings from Gas Monkey. Just recently went to the Gas Monkey Bar and Grill down in Dallas one of the first times. But I'm not somebody who likes to drop the names.
Ditto. Totally. I totally feel that.
It's kind of cool, but
Then let's exit name dropping.
All right.
And let's hit up our next. This is a debut. We did not air this on episode 1.
Sure.
Verge. Let's see segment
And
2.
now on Podcast This,
you can throw a curveball.
show
at
me yours, I'll show you mine.
This segment's called Show Me Yours, I'll Show You Mine. Chris, I think you host 2 podcasts and you're definitely guests on several.
Yeah.
Verge, while we're chatting about these, can we take a look at some screen grabs from Mr. Neto's podcasts? Yeah, there we go. You should have said this guy in name dropping.
Yes.
Is that Microsoft's Jimmy Vaughn?
That is Microsoft Jimmy Vaughn. Jimmy Vaughn is a friend and doesn't live too far away. He's a local Jersey guy as well. We connected a bunch of years ago. Jimmy and I have always hit it off very well. Jimmy has agreed to basically come on a Midwich show that we run that's called Consultant Connect.
Okay.
And we drop all the little goodies that is Microsoft related.
Teams. It's a lot about Teams
A lot about
calls.
Teams
Yeah.
and how it basically will interconnect into the AV space. So I play the role of the AV person, while
Okay.
Jimmy is the Microsoft guy. And we try to make sense of how that works. Jimmy's a former, obviously he's a former production broadcast guy.
DJ?
Not DJ,
Okay.
but he's got one better.
All right.
You have to have him on, but his claim to fame was he's worked for a lot of manufacturers, but his TV days of when he was a cameraman and producer, that I'll leave to Jimmy to tell the story. Amazing story. And you want to talk about name dropping and with
I do.
He's that guy.
Okay.
You want to have Jimmy as a guest.
Chris, I took this screen grab specifically because I noticed there was an animated crawl on the bottom of your screen.
Absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about what you are trying to convey with the animated crawl at the bottom of the screen.
So if internal, even us at Midwich, we're trying to upgrade and do a better production value. Anybody can come on a Teams call or a Zoom call, and that's the beauty of actually what we do as integrators is that 90% of the things that we're out there already doing as installers is we're laying the groundwork down for basic. You can take a basic Zoom, basic Microsoft call or Google call, whatever you want to do, kind of grab that video and then put it out as content. Just have that video call.
So what are you using? What software or hardware are you using to, is it a Zoom, I guess, is it a Microsoft Teams call? And are you running that through a switcher to add the graphics?
I don't have the secret sauce for what the system is that we're actually using for the connection.
Okay.
That's my production folks that kind of do that. And I just literally, I'm coming in as a guest. But I do know we're working with some Epiphan gear on this,
Yeah.
and it's allowing for the easy kind of, lower thirds and stuff like that. I do know that because I know that one of our producers has that in his space, and I may have one at my home too.
So you showed me yours. I'm going to show you mine.
Sure.
We've got a TriCaster TC2 Elite powering podcast this with Jesse Miller.
Horsepower, man.
That's
Horsepower.
right. We don't mess around. Verge Castillo is our technical director operating out of Chicago.
Yeah.
And so what you're looking at here is an Emmy, which takes in our 2 live cameras, 1 and 3. We've got a DDR playing back the screen grab of Mr. Vaughn and Mr. Neto's conversation. And then in a buffer, we've got our logo sort of duplicated like that. So the point is, once you've got the fundamentals right, once your cameras look good and your audio sounds right, then you can start doing interesting things like an animated crawl on the bottom to re-amplify your message.
Absolutely. You want to take the first step is getting on video. We've talked about that. You can start with a cell phone. Then you have your camera and your basic setup all in one. That'll get you something. That'll get you the next step. Then you start playing with and start moving into better audio. The key to everything is the better audio, more so than anything else. The reason why is because if anything happens on video, you always have your audio to default to. And what's nice about creating content is in the world of where we play, you separate those two out. So you can then take the video, drop it into YouTube, then create the actual audio podcast, and then drop it into the Spotifys of the world and just run an audio because not everybody has the ability to sit and watch a video.
Sure.
A lot of folks, like I did when I was working as a consultant, I was taking classes and learning via audio on my Bluetooth as I was driving home.
On the commute.
On the commute. So podcasts are something that people are listening to in their car, not necessarily on video. Video is next level. Video is now TV shows. It's what I'll watch every Thursday because I know that I'll catch up on a podcast from Andy Frisella or something like that, which I want to hear about 75 Hard or, the things that he's doing. And, I'm a Gary Vaynerchuk guy, fellow Jersey guy. Right?
Are you watching Gary V's podcast?
I love Gary V's stuff for years, but Gary V may be a little too rough for everybody. And not everything that Gary V is doing applies to everybody, but the motivation and what you're going to get out of a Gary V podcast, and he'll be the first to tell you, just go out and do it.
Start.
That is the hardest part.
Call your favorite AV integrator, buy something, and then start.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is the hardest part about it. And even AV integration and manufacturers that are looking at this space and trying to figure out what to do, don't get caught up in the production first. Get something out there. You got to build your audience. The need is why you want to do this.
It brings us right back to our theme.
course.
When you say you've got to build your audience, which takes precedence? Is it production value or consistency?
Consistency all day. Consistency wins.
Expand on that.
I will out-hustle the next person because I can put out enough content daily. And that will separate me from the other person.
Is daily what it takes?
No.
Okay.
No, but if I have to, I'll do it. There was somebody on social media when I first got onto social media, and I realized I was way behind as far as followers. So what was my math, right? How do I math properly to get to a level that this person had, where I started off and I had a few followers? How do I do this? How do I amplify my voice? It's very simple. You take the Twitter followers that these people had, say they were 10,000, and I'm at 1,000. My math is very Jersey old school street math. I'll tell you that right now. It doesn't make sense, but hear me out. If somebody had 10,000 followers and were doing their tweets and stuff, to me, I had to do 10 times my 1,000.
Oh.
So for every one of their tweets, I had to do 10 tweets. And that's how I mathed. And that math, building consistency at first, was required. Where I'm at now, on the X platform with about 16 to 17,000 Twitter followers, on LinkedIn, just over 10,000 connections. These are all curated. These are not, I'm not necessarily...
These aren't bots. These are people that would like and interact with your content.
Correct. I kind of jumped in later in the Twitter thing. Like, I jumped in when there was already an AV community built. The AV Tweeps community was already existing, but a bunch of people that got together and tried to find a hashtag. Right? And one of the confusing things that folks have when it comes to, hey, I want to get into the content, but where am I going to find the audience? You got to go to where the audience is. And if you don't know where the audience is, you need to bookmark this. And every marketing folk I've ever talked to like to create their own marketing. When they first start, and where your audience is where those communities are already pre-built. So when you're tweeting or on LinkedIn dropping your comments and your stuff, you need to use the hashtags because the community that follows that stuff is already going to be there.
You know what? I definitely piggybacked on the AV Tweeps
100%.
hashtag.
Yes.
Every time I'm on LinkedIn and I say something, if I forget the hashtag, it's like a fourth of the attention.
AV Tweeps is something that grew out of Twitter and it grew into something. I don't think there's one person that can be attributed to owning it. What I did with AV in the AM was very different. And there's a very weird, like, unspoken vibe around AV in the AM. Like, it's only reserved for Sundays. We don't use AV in the AM any other time in the week, unless it's something that I had. Like, if somebody has, like, an AV in the AM swag or something, they'll tag it.
That's building the brand.
It's
if
part of
AV
the brand.
in the AM is a Sunday show, and don't confuse the dice, I like to say. You know what I mean?
It's strictly been a Sunday thing. And now it's kind of grown because I had my first non-AV show meetup a few weeks ago in Asbury Park, New Jersey, where there was a projector mapping event. And it was it was a free kind of event type thing. And I don't have sponsors. AV in the AM is not driven by that.
Right.
It's a Sunday morning thing with me and my coffee and a handful of people that have just been answering questions for years, for the last 8 years at least. So I decided to get a meetup together. And we did. We had about 10, 12 people show up. Local. This was very local, so you have to be local. I had guys coming in from Philadelphia. I had a guy come in from out of state. It was wild. It was interesting. It was great, and we got to see a projector mapping event.
How was the projection mapping?
It was better the year before.
Okay.
But it was great. I mean,
right.
it's what we do.
Yeah.
There's a certain amount of pride that comes with that.
Sure.
And I work closely with a buddy of mine, Brian Mazzaros, who works for a company called OpenEye Global. They do content creation and on the digital signage space. He runs XUSC, which is kind of like the experiential social club.
Okay.
So he will go to like an InfoComm and throw parties. He'll go to DSC, throw parties. That's where it originally started. And he loves to curate events he actually spun that off, and he just does curated events now on his own with XUSC. Meanwhile, OpenEye Global is still doing their content creation and stuff that they're doing. But it was a great conversation. It's probably where AV in the AM is leading to more in person, and there's been a demand. So maybe I'll take it on the road. You never know.
All right. I like it. So AV in the AM is yours. This Midwich show is yours. Now we've got a new, I want to move us into the next segment about not stuff that's yours.
And now on Podcast This, other people's podcasts.
This is other people's podcasts.
Sure.
And so here is we've actually got a little bit of footage from your appearance on a Vixa's podcast, which I'd like to share.
Sure.
But are there, you mentioned Gary Vee, you mentioned a couple other guys. Is there any podcast out there that really has caught your attention? And, I've been watching a lot of the Ezra Klein show, for example. The New York Times has great depth of field in their individual shots and stuff like this. Is there anything that you've been really into watching lately? Or have you appeared on a podcast that you really enjoyed?
I always love doing the AV ones. At NAB, I was on with my buddy James from ICANN.
James Chan from ICANN does
Yes,
a
sir.
great podcast, and it's a video podcast too.
100%. Uses all quality stuff. All of his lighting's in place. It really is, for a show that should be focused on lighting and how to do like that kind of stuff. He really just goes off the rails and goes right into what makes AV great
And talking about AI and talking about the
Absolutely.
user. I don't want to spoil it too much. James is a guest on our show on August 31st.
No way. Tell him I said hi.
I will. And of course, all the lighting here is PoE lights from ICANN.
Awesome.
I'm really happy with the job
Absolutely.
that they're doing. Let's take a look at a couple of
Sure.
images from what was it? Sam's podcast.
Now, the image you're going to show is from a on-site 3-camera shoot that we did for a Vixa a few years ago in Orlando. Actually, matter of fact, I think this was the first time I ever was on a show with Sam Powell. Sam Powell's a good friend. She is, I'd like to say, the face of Avixa TV.
Okay.
Wonderful person, a good friend of mine. And what she does is interview me here, gets to sit down with me and another good friend of mine. There was two of us that got interviewed at the Beeline Diner in Orlando.
The Beeline.
Yes. So this is right outside the convention center. Great place if you're looking for a quick bite to eat.
So what I want to get at, here's the two shot,
Yeah.
right? We open on the wide, we start with an establishing shot, and then as each participant becomes interesting, we hit them with their own.
3-camera shot.
There's
Yeah.
Sam's camera, and finally, Verge, can we see the reverse angle on Mr. Neto? There.
Yeah.
Okay, so like we've said a few times, you start with an iPhone.
Yeah.
But just as it's important to have 3-point lighting fundamentals, tell me the importance of the 3-camera shoot.
So when you start talking about, one of the things that we do really well in the world of AV is talk about immersive environments.
Okay.
It's one thing to be one-dimensional and to have a forward-facing shot. The 3-camera shot, you are now, as a viewer, placing yourself there. That's the difference between production versus straight-up video call, right? Video calls are trying to be more immersive. And the only way you can do that is to get those kind of shots like you saw there where you're adding a bokeh. When you're adding an over the shot, like you want to see Sam, but you want to be standing behind me. People in the world of content creation, one of the things that I've discovered in both podcasts and just shooting video, whether it's a sit-down interview with Sam Powell or a walk and talk video with Craig Durr for his Collab Cafe, the people want to be they want to be a voyeur. They want to be the people that are there, the fly on the wall for a conversation, the feeling that they are there with you, listening to something that is very real, very deep, very...
And that over-the-shoulder shot where you can see the back of the person not speaking helps suspend the disbelief. It puts you in the room.
Correct.
Much more
You're
than
sitting-
a straight-on camera would.
Absolutely. You're sitting at the coffee table next to this,
Right.
watch this happen.
Right, you're just leaning over. You put your arm on the armrest and crane your neck.
Yes, absolutely. And shots like this and that kind of 3-camera shoot gives you the impression that you were there. And that's what you kind of want. You want to hear the audio perfectly because we are mic'd for this type of shot. And the gentleman who runs this, Craig Metzer, does a great job of kind of envisioning.
Name dropping.
There was, yeah. Craig works for Avixa.
Nice.
So getting this type of shot is a very different one because it's always forward facing, and it takes a one-dimensional and adds a third dimension to it, a fourth wall, where I can turn to the camera, and tell a camera directly.
Yeah.
That becomes fourth wall as opposed to what we're used to in a video conference space where we're, not looking, now I can look away and talk to you.
Yeah.
And you're in shot.
I like to say that we're telling 3-dimensional stories, right? But we're watching them on 2-dimensional medium.
Yeah.
Your iPhone or your laptop or whatever. So any trick we can pull to create the idea in the brain subconsciously that there's depth. Maybe something in the background is out of focus.
Yeah.
Maybe I've got a backlight or a shoulder light separating me from the backdrop. Yeah. Now my story can have subconsciously three-dimensionality to it, even though we're consuming it on those flat screens.
That fourth wall breaking is a thing. Deadpool has been a movie that everybody loves to do that. But even taking it back years ago into the 70s, a movie like Animal House. There's a shot in Animal House that everybody kind of just like freaks out, where John Belushi went up a ladder and is looking in to a room where the girls are hanging out. Yeah. And he slowly turns around and looks at the camera and gives you this devilish grin like, we're both looking, we're doing something.
You're a voyeur too, buddy.
We are not supposed to be here, and you're with me on this. That engages the audience in a completely different way.
Now they're in the story.
Now you're there with him on the ladder when he's about to fall.
I think that John Belushi he could increase some viewership.
Oh, 100%. These days he would have been great with social media. Absolutely. But yeah, there are a lot of different things that tricks that can be done on a production. And, it all comes back to, you're talking about creating a podcast and doing all that. You don't necessarily have to be the funniest person. You don't have to be the most engaging. But when you let your personality come out, and that is part of it. I remember early days of podcasts where there was a guy who was really stiff on camera. And I told him, I said, dude, just, you have a guy and somebody else sitting next to him that was very animated. Stay the straight and narrow, like the newscaster. This is the news and the news is the news, and let the other guy be the play-by-play kind of color commentator. Having that kind of back and forth was interesting. And the animated person's my buddy, Mark Coxon, who was doing a lot of stuff with Rave at the time. So he was doing video podcasts, and he was very animated and brought the conversation. The other guy was very stiff. And it worked, but he didn't want to say that he was a stiff. Like
he was the straight guy.
He was kind of like the all business guy.
I heard you say on Craig Durr's Collab Cafe, people can sniff out inauthenticity.
Yes.
And I think the market craves authenticity.
Correct. I can't fake what I'm not. And, we were talking offline about, I'll go and I'll do a keynote or I'll sit on a panel. And I'll be honest with you, Jesse, the hardest part about what I do is dealing with imposter syndrome. I never feel that I am qualified enough, right? I don't own a company. I don't have patents. I'm not a smart man, kind of like, and I do reference a lot of pop culture references. But I think that in me, getting in front of a camera, being able to break down that just anybody, I'm the everyman, right? I'm the fat kid from Jersey who got lucky, right? I stepped into social media at the right time, at the right place, and built something that even today I'm sort of in disbelief. But when
through
I go
consistent posting,
through consistent
quality
posting,
content,
and remaining authentic,
solid fundamentals. Remaining authentic. Sorry, I was digging back into all the callbacks, but you're on authenticity.
Yes,
by remaining authentic.
Yeah, remaining remaining the thing. Like I'm fighting my Jersey accent real bad, but if you offer me some coffee, it'll come out.
Okay,
as you can hear in the accent. But yeah, it's who I am, and I don't want to change. I am very fortunate to work for a company like Midwich that allows me to come on a podcast and gives me the trust that I am doing it for the better of the industry. I'm not necessarily a pitch guy. I won't sit here and tell you that this is the greatest product I've ever seen, and it's not going to be fake. I'm not sitting here. If I am dropping a name of a product, it's because I kind of like it,
or maybe because you use it,
or because I use it.
Which brings us to our next segment.
Man, I'm good with segues.
Yeah, that was awesome transitional material.
And now, on Podcast This, what we use.
It's now time for what we use on Podcast This.
Absolutely.
And so here we get to take a quick break and talk about the fun stuff that's in our studio. We hinted at it when you mentioned Mr. James Chan, future guest on the show. Awesome guy that you were on his podcast at NAB. Man, I'm lighting this whole studio with ICANN PoE lights. Now, there are a lot of them. I think each guest has their own key, fill, and hair light. And then I've got two in our grid on the backdrop. Do you want to cut to camera 4, Verge? Would that even show us? Nope, doesn't show it. My apologies. But the point is, I've got a lighting grid full of lights here, and they're all ICANN PoE lights.
Correct.
I'm really into it. We didn't have to hire an electrical contractor to put some new outlets in the ceiling.
Nope.
We're running a piece of software, ICANN's Light Deck, that emulates a DMX controller. We can save our presets and stuff like that. And I'm a big fan. Tell me, Chris, In your home studio on the Midwich Live with
Uh-huh.
Microsoft's Jimmy Vaughn, what's some of the gear that you're using?
Very basic. Basically because I had built a kind of a studio at home. I had a lot of cool different products in there. I had everything from Bird Dog cameras to PTZ Optics cameras. These are products that we obviously carry. I'm being fully transparent. I also switched to DSLR. And I was using a Canon DSLR with a Sigma lens to give me that nice, rich bokeh look.
Out of field, shallow depth of field.
Shallow depth of field, 60 millimeter Sigma lens.
Nice.
Kind of put it together at the time. Canon. The reason why I went there is during the pandemic, you couldn't find any
USB capture devices.
And my friends over at Elgato at the time were completely blown out of them. So I had a Stream Deck. That's a product I use to kind of do some quick cuts and some shortcuts out of it. I have the Canon camera. I have a couple different USB cameras, which I constantly change on because it depends on what I'm doing and
So
where
you're
I'm
going USB right from the DSLR?
There's times, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I had...
because the HDMI to USB capture, all eaten up during the pandemic. I remember those days.
Yep.
We were using AJA's UTAPs.
Yes.
And selling like hotcakes.
Yep. So one of the things, like Madewell makes a nice product, but at the time, gone.
Out
right?
of stock.
So I had to create a portable system. And it needed to be, I need to go anywhere with it because I travel a lot. During the pandemic, no. But as soon as I came out of the pandemic, I needed to kind of get on the road. So I wanted to basically put what I think would be a professional system into a book bag and travel with it.
And it consisted of?
Consisted of small rig devices, a lot of the clamps and stuff for a little tiny product, kind of for, especially for the DSLR stuff.
Yep.
Clamps and stuff, great. I had some, what's that?
Microphone?
Microphone, I had a Shure.
The USB version of the SM7B.
Yes. When they came out, I was one of the first to get one of those.
USM7?
I forget what the...
I like them, but you got to be so close to those microphones to make them work. You got to be like this.
I'm an old radio guy, so I understand.
Okay.
So basically, get me a quality microphone, get me a quality camera, something a little bit better than just a standard. Obviously, I'm going to try not to do anything off my USB the camera that's built into the laptop.
That's a no-no.
The hardest part I had starting and trying to build something that I could be portable with was my company-issued laptop. And I had to go back to Midwich and said, I need more horsepower. Because a lot of those video boards that are integrated into the motherboards didn't have the juice I needed to kind of do the 2 camera shots and stuff like that at the time. So I worked with the team internally, with our IT team, and said, hey, get me something that has a little bit more
Often
juice.
marketing can excuse purchases of high-end graphics cards installed into their laptops to do their multi-camera shoots and stuff.
But just like everybody else, I had to prove my ground. I had to prove
right.
that it was 100% necessary. I was hosting podcasts and town halls, internal town halls, where I would not just, it wasn't really a town hall, but we would run it in a town hall style where we would bring in a manufacturer stream live or stream out. And invite integrators into the conversation. So we would have a manufacturer on with me, and I would interview them, and they would have a segment where they would talk about the product that they wanted to talk about. And it was kind of like an internal podcast, essentially. That actually got me to go to the Podcast Movement show. Podcast Movement is a conference, and I thought I was going in there to kind of learn about, I was severely mistaken. I went to a Podcast Movement, and they were not corporate podcasters. I was one of the few corporate podcasters. But actually, it turned out pretty well because most of the people that were up there speaking were corporate podcasters. The people that went to Podcast Movement had like sci-fi writers that wrote like sci-fi fiction for like Star Wars. I'm like, you're all very interesting. Not what I do. Interesting. They were very much old school radio style.
Okay.
They would talk about, it was like had like Weird New Jersey, which Weird New Jersey goes to different spots in New Jersey before they were in video and kind of had an audio podcast talking about spots in New Jersey that were haunted or that were weird. So you had all these like mishmash of genres of podcasts. And I really got to understand where that comes from. But there was a true love of audio only with that group. My head was already in the video, and this was a few years ago. But listening to how corporations went, because they did bring in people from iHeartRadio and different spots and how they using podcasts internally really got my juices flowing. And between that and going to NAB and understanding how broadcasts work really put me back into my broadcast roots. And, listening to how we are now, in that space and expanding into the live event space. Broadcast, live events, enterprise broadcast, they're all
That's the
colliding.
convergence right now.
Yeah,
that's the convergence.
That's the convergence that a lot of people in AV need to understand.
AVIT, total convergence, old news.
Yes.
The new news is
Yeah.
broadcast and corporate. That's
Yes.
the new convergence.
100%.
We need our CEO to have a place where he can, show up live on a Bloomberg interview and record his CEO address and take his regular Zoom calls.
Yeah.
And it should all be the same room. I want triple my return on investment when I work with an awesome firm like Midtown Video to put that technology in place.
And I'll drop a term that's been spoken about for years, which should be synonymous now with anything we're doing. But video first in our world should be happening today.
Video first.
Video first was the theory that we were going to start moving to video and that email would take a step back.
Ooh.
So in the video first mentality, instead of a Monday morning meeting where it would be an email that got blasted out, you're now doing a 30-second video.
30-second Loom video and says, just watch this. This is the news.
And this is where it gets interesting. Your new hires, your 20-somethings that are coming out of college, for lack of a better term, they are the digital natives. They grew up with this. They are more apt to watching a 30-second clip than they are to read an email.
Especially if it's in cursive.
Good luck with that.
Chris, that brings us to our next segment.
Let's
this
do
is
it.
all about, we know what you've got. Roll the bumper for me.
And now on Podcast This, the wish list.
We know what you've got and what you've been working with. What's one item you've got on your mind that you'd love to implement in your podcast studio?
Man, what can I condense it down to? Portability for me, obviously, because I do a lot of stuff on the road.
Okay.
Wish list. Interactive streaming that's not going to infringe upon IT security. I think that people, companies would like to be able to do fully compressed shots out. They're recording in 4K in these enterprise spaces. But to go out, they're
down to 720.
They're going down to 720. They want something that's going to blast out and give them that high quality stuff because they want to take that content, then cut it down.
Yeah.
That's the other part of building your audience is that you shoot a 30, 40, 50-minute podcast, you cut those down into a very popular segment now on YouTube, which is, or the Instagram spaces, which is creating reels, right?
Or shorts on YouTube.
Shorts on YouTube. Those are much more easy to digest.
Okay.
So you want high quality. And if you're doing these and you're grabbing the feed off the internet, it's, you're downgrading.
Yeah.
So if there was a wish list, it would be that interactive, full-blown, I'm going to do this at 100 miles an hour, and it's going to come out looking like a Rolls Royce. And then be able to then cut it and dumb it down into smaller bite-sized portions.
On my wish list would be 3 matching cameras. I mean, we're doing our best with what we've got. Beautiful stuff left over from our broadcast rental department that closed in 2019. But, you start with what you've got.
I may know a guy.
Okay, all right.
Just saying.
Drop my name,
Yes.
if you will. In a moment, we're going to do my favorite segment on the show, which is Key Takeaways, where Chris and I will each offer our one key takeaway to our viewers at home to implement tomorrow, in this case, to increase your viewership. But before we do, I want to tease next week's episode. We will be joined by David Maldow from Let's Do Video, also from AI Chefs. Maybe you've seen him. He puts the the artificially generated chef hat on. And this guy is a master of digital effects, both in the corporate streaming space and on his own podcast. So tune in next Monday. That'll be August 20th. I don't know, August 17th at 4 p.m. Live in the studio will be Mr. Maldow. We will not be wearing AI Chef hats. It's an in-person thing, but the episode is not to be missed.
Yes.
And so with that, Verge, let's roll our last
And
bumper.
now on Podcast This, your key takeaway.
Key takeaways. There will be 2, one from Mr. Neto and one from me. Guest first, brother. What is our key takeaway for our viewership today?
What are you waiting for? That's it. Step into the space. Dip your toe in the water. You're never going to know what you have until it's done, and you never know what's going to happen until it happens. Things like AV and the AM happen naturally for me. 90% of things that I've done in the social space have happened by chance and by luck, and they're not really planned out in some cases. But in some motivation I've had to, hey, you know what, I'd love to work with the guys from AV Nation, and let's figure out how we can take pictures or selfies being shot and create an AV selfie hashtag, what can we do with that? And the whole everything turning into an AV selfie video and a music video and all that sort of stuff that came up.
So it's make the call.
It's make the call.
Start the show.
Why not? What do you got to lose? I mean, honestly, to create content is not really that hard. You find something that you feel you need to put out there. If the information's valid, you will get an audience. And the consistency will bring it to you. And you got to be entertaining. To be just the stiff delivering the news is not going to do much. So you got to become a better storyteller. You got to have a little bit of personality. If not, your guest list really needs to be up and amped.
Top tier. You need a Chris Neto.
You don't need a Chris Neto, but man, you got to shoot for some guests, man, that are up there in the space that are going to generate that people want to see and that want to that bring something different, new, and interesting.
I like it. So your takeaway is get started now and brush up on being interesting.
Absolutely.
I dig it. My key takeaway is about fundamentals. It's true that you can get started with an iPhone and the built-in microphone, but as you said, the internal camera on your laptop might not get it done after the first or second episode. And so I'd like to encourage fundamentals like 3-point lighting, the 3-camera shoot, top-notch audio, that sort of thing. Viewers at home, thank you guys for tuning in. If you need any information on being interesting, booking great guests, or the fundamentals of audio and visual production, call your friends at Midtown Video. It's been a pleasure to have you here, Chris. Thank you for joining us on the show.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you to our millions and billions of viewers on the internet. We hope you'll tune in next Monday when we welcome Dave Maldow. This has been Podcast This with Jesse Miller. Tune in next week. We'd love to see you.
Thank you for watching Podcast This with Jesse Miller. See you next Monday. Same pod time, same pod channel.